Okay, before we begin, a quick brief summary of what the North Coast 500 is. It's a roughly 500-mile route around the northwest of Scotland, and it's known to be one of the most beautiful road trips in the UK, if not the world. From a whole lot of mountains to seeing the odd Highland coo, this trip has got it all. So this video is all about what to do on the North Coast 500. It's all about what we got up to on our trip, so you might get a wee bit inspired to do the same thing. I'ma pause here and say that if you have any bigger questions about the North Coast 500, like how long to go for, when to go, what to bring, I made a video that was literally entirely dedicated to that, so go to that link in the description if you're interested. If you ain't, that hurts. But let's continue. After 4 years of living in Scotland, I decided it is time, and my flatmate and I took Winnie to do the North Coast 500. So I guess we technically started the route in Inverness. So we got to Inverness at about 4 PM and probably only spent a couple of hours here. But while you're here, there is a few things to check out, such as the castle, there's a cathedral next to the river, it's got some pretty nice shops. You should definitely check out the Victorian market if it's open. But honestly, I found this to be more just a small city with not an enormous amount happening. Which brings us on to Rosemarkie and Fortrose Bay, staying at the Fortrose Bay campsite, which I'd recommend booking because there's limited space. It was pretty foggy, so we couldn't really stay up to see anything. Typical. But we thought, you know what, let's just get a good night's rest and we'll move on in the morning. Good morning. I look fantastic. So this day was a very packed day. We ended up driving up the entire East Coast. Yeah. But it actually all fit in rather nicely. We woke up the next day and we pretty much immediately decided that we wanted to go to the fairy glen near Rosemarkie. It's a little bit of a walk towards the waterfalls, but it's worth it, I think, because you get there and lord, it's pretty. Also, there's some logs with coins in around, and I think it's a good look thing. If your mother could see you now. Next to the river, we actually found a rope swing near the car park. Yeah, boy! When I tried it, it was completely safe. I can't say it will be for you, but if you want to, go for it. So high! It was the highlight of my day. I'm sorry. You're right. We then went on towards Itinerary Point, which is the spot where you can find the dolphins. When we got there, needless to say, we had to wait around for ages. But then we actually managed to see some dolphins. Look at how spectacular they are. What quality footage I got. Also, if you're not really interested in dolphins, go for the comedy. Just watching every soul on that beach literally sprint towards where the dolphins are is like a scene out of Willy Wonka where all the people are grabbing them chocolate bars before they're all gone. After that, Dunrobin Castle. And it was closed. Yeah. Son of a... But we did take advantage of the gardens. Due to the fact that the weather was so grim, we got the entire place to ourselves. This meant we got to play croquet in peace. Woo! And Emma got to do her usual stretches with nobody creeping. After the castle, we went towards the Walligo Steps, possibly the best stop. Maybe it was the fact that because the weather was so dramatic, it made it look 10 times more epic than anything else I might have seen on this trip. But this was the first time I got to see some proper dramatic cliffs in Scotland, and honestly, I think it would be well worth the stop for you. Then it was upwards towards John O'Groats. The roads which went towards John O'Groats were actually kind of freaky because when we went, they were really quiet and there was a lot of abandoned looking freaky castles and houses on the side of the road. So for a moment, I could have sworn we are going down. We stayed at the classic John O'Groats campsite, and please do enjoy this moment of Emma attempting to vlog.
So we've just arrived at the campsite of John O'Groats. We're really hoping that they've got a free space.
We got there pretty late, so again, we made some food and we went to bed. The 27th of May was Emma's birthday. We had some breakfast and I got a boo-boo. We drove to Duncansby Head first thing. There's a wee car park next to the lighthouse, and then you need to walk for a little bit to get to the view. We went there to see puffins, but we didn't see any. But sweet Jesus, is the view worth it? If you can hack it, then there is a rope which leads down a steep hill to the beach. Me and Emma went down there and I got one of the best pictures of the entire trip. I essentially spotted a cave and I thought to myself, I am going to take a picture in that cave if it kills me. Can confirm, it almost did. I literally had to get on all fours and crawl to get towards that cave. Look at that picture. Speaking of pictures, go follow the Wiildblooms Instagram page for more pictures that look so good you could eat them. That was very slippery. We drove back towards John O'Groats and we got some pictures with the classic sign at the tip top of the UK. There is quite a lot of tourists here, even in May, so you might need to wait your turn to get that classic picture, unfortunately. Then we got on the road. The A836 road along the north of Scotland has a lot to see, so if you can, I'd recommend literally spending the entire day just driving and stopping as you go. stayed at the Sango Sands campsite. This was one of the most gorgeous campsites on the entire trip because we got a spot right overlooking the beach on the cliff. It also has one hell of a pub, and everyone is super friendly. The next morning, it was time for chocolates. One of the best hot chocolates you will ever have in your entire life. And that is at Cocoa Mountain in Balnakeil. Look at that hot chocolate. Can confirm we felt rather ill after leaving that cafe. There's also a little creative town next to the cafe, so if you have time, go and have a look around the galleries and support the locals like we did. They appreciate it. After that, we drove back towards the Smoo Caves. This was the biggest cave that we went in on the trip, and unfortunately because the river was too high, we couldn't go and have a tour of the rest of it, but we got some pretty good pictures while we were there anyway. Also, if you continue to walk towards the coast from Smoo Caves, there are some spectacular sights, so don't let just the caves be the end of that spot for you.
That was wonderfully awkward.
From there, we headed towards the Blairmore car park and put our walking boots on for that 6-mile return hike to Sandwood Bay. Because of the walk to get to it, you could tell that it was one of the quietest beaches in the country, which is what made it so spectacular. So if you have the capabilities to walk to Sandwood Bay, it's a long walk, but it's worth it, trust me. From there, we drove past the magnificent Kyleskew Bridge, which I would definitely recommend stopping and getting a few pics. And then we came off route towards Akmelvich Beach. We stayed at the Akmelvich Beach Shore caravan site. The next day, we drove down to Ullapool. On the way, we stopped off at Ardbeg Castle to get some sweet footage. Ullapool was definitely my favourite town on the trip. I mean, look at this view. There's also some really good seafood and cafes here. We spent a fair few hours just wandering around this little town, and then we got back on the road and continued towards the Sands Caravan Park at Big Sand. So the next day didn't really go to plan. We stopped off at the TORRIDON Inn, and I would definitely recommend this for the food, and it's got a really good vibe about it. If you walk past the inn, then there's a hike that you can do which goes towards a loch, and there's even an old car wreck. Then, after that, our intention was to stay in the Applecross campsite. But we got to Applecross and, well, there wasn't really that much there.
Okay, let's go.
So we decided that we'd drive to Skye. This meant that we finally had to drive the notoriously bad road, the Bealach na Ba. It was foggy and rainy as hell, and I really understand what they mean when they say new drivers don't attempt this road, and I definitely wouldn't try it in anything bigger than a van.
No, they just reverse back into the ditch because they can reverse. That's what we need.
But you know what? It is really satisfying when you get to the end of it, probably because you're so relieved that it's over.
There it is!
We then drove onwards to Skye. We drove across the Kylecan Bridge and stayed at a campsite beside the Sligahan Bridges. It was an incredible view, even in the bad weather. So we got up the next day ready to take on Skye, and we were blessed again by the glorious Scottish weather. Do enjoy this small montage of me taking it all in. Still, we headed to Portree and got some brunch. I would definitely recommend Cafe Arriba for some unique food and solid coffee. Once we had a wee walk around Portree, seeing some of the sights and going into a few shops, we got back in the van and started to drive around the island. Even simply driving through Skye is enough to show you how beautiful it is. And I actually found the island to be a lot more advanced than I expected. All of the roads are good and it's very easy to navigate. One other thing I would mention is Skye is tiny. You could literally drive around the entire island in a day if you wanted to. We decided to go and see the Fairy Glen, which is actually pretty unique. I would recommend it.
You see those 4 sheep, they aligned themselves perfectly for me. Thank you!
If you have some time when you're in Skye, I would definitely recommend going to the Ferry Inn in Newig. It's super cozy, good drinks and good vibes. So that morning we decided that we'd go on a hike somewhere, but we didn't really know where. So we drove around the top of the island, around the quarrings, and decided to be the classic tourists and do the hike to the Old Man of Storr. It was about a 45-minute hike, and when we got there, yeah. It was also super busy, so I'd probably say if you can do another hike, do that. There's just too many people. We made one last stop at the Milt Falls, then we decided Skye was just a little bit too busy for us, to be honest. Yes, Skye is stunning, but there's just too many people, and that wasn't even in high season. I don't know, maybe it will be different if we spent some more time there, but those were our first impressions anyway. And that is when our epic road trip came to an end. So there you have it. If you want the complete details and specifics of where all of these things are, there's a link to the Wiildblooms website in the description which will show you all the spots there. If you do think you're going to go on and smash this road trip, then go and check out the other video I uploaded for some tips about it before you go. Again, down in the description. If you have any questions, do ask in the comments below. I'll try and answer. But do give this video a like if you found it mildly helpful or entertaining, and if you think you'll want to see my face again, then please subscribe. Cheers, pal!